So we discussed this topic many times in the past. We're all going to exit our business someday. It's inevitable, right? But getting to the decision point can be complicated. You put your life's work into a business, 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And when you come to that time, the emotions start to rise. The fear, the uncertainty, the regret, possible remorse. I mean, there's all play into it. So at the end of the day, some of us delay, procrastinate, and we miss our time. The number two reason businesses don't get sold is seller remorse, right? Cold feet. And to help us get over that emotional roller coaster and look at a bright, fun, exciting next chapter or future, we're really excited to have back with us one of our first guests when I started this podcast over 4 years ago, Mark Rollins. Mark, how are you?
I'm great. I'm really excited to be here, and I listened to your intro, and it's everything that my brother and I went through when we decided to sell our business. So I'm really excited to chat about it today.
Well, I'm happy you're here because I think it's probably one of the most important topics. And you went through it. You and your brother went through it. And not just your business, but a multi-generational business. And I'd love to just come back a little bit and share with the audience a little background in the company and when you and your brother made a decision like the time is right.
Well, and thanks for having me here. I appreciate it. Our business was founded in 1910 by my great-great-grandfather. And Chuck and I, when we bought our dad out, we were the fourth generation owners of the business. And it was an insurance brokerage firm, and he started it, insuring tractors and a couple of other things back then. And by the time Chuck and I took over, it had grown substantially. And it comes with a fourth generation business comes with some, I would say, responsibility and some legacy responsibility. So what do you do with it? How do you take care of it? How do you keep it going? Should you keep it going? Should you sell it? If you sell it, what are people going to say? All of that. So owning a fourth generation business like that was exciting on one hand and a little scary on the other. Like, what do we do next? And as we aged, we had to figure that out.
Right. Was there any kind of succession? You mean the next generation, or was it like fourth generation is highly unusual? It's fantastic. Usually the first generation, maybe the second, third, maybe 10, 15%. Fourth generation is a very unique situation. So, and that succession of what to do, right? The right fit, or what should we do? I mean, it's you and your brother. So it's not just your decision, right? You have to talk to your partner, your family, but your partner.
Yeah.
Hey, who raised that question first? I mean, when you decided to make this decision, was it you? Was it Chuck? How did you guys come to that realization that let's do something here?
No, it's interesting. Chuck and I were different people, different skill sets, not different upbringing for sure, same upbringing, and maybe sometimes different views of where the business should go. But one thing we were united on is that it's not that we didn't want to sell it to our children, but none of the 6 kids showed an ounce of interest in coming in. And we weren't going to force that.
Right.
Because that's how the next generation screws it up. If there's not that passion and drive and love for what it is that Chuck and I had and showed to our dad that we can do this, even though he was frightened to death to sell it to us, we realized our kids really weren't interested. So we knew early on that our exit was going to be either an internal sale or an external sale. We knew that long before we sold it.
And you just determined it was going to be an external sale.
We did. An internal sale is nice and it's kind and it's thoughtful to the people who are there, your teammates. But in my mind, it doesn't really make any sense because you're really putting all of this asset at risk to a bunch of other people to run it. And in our business, in the industry, when we sold it, I think it was in 2013, 2012, it was multiples were at an all-time high, and the internal sale would never get close to that. So it became that we had to do an external sale when it was time to do it.
So you're seeing your peer group around, the country, that they're selling their companies because there was a lot of consolidation in insurance business still going on today, right? Mm-hmm. And so did you get approached by somebody that said, hey, we're interested? Because all our clients, business owners like yourself, get target letters all the time, get emails all the time, get phone calls all the time. Hey, let's have a conversation, right? There's fishing out there. What was the trigger point? So now's the time.
I think that for Chuck and I, we were at the peak of our career. I was 55, he was 53. And actually, we 2 years earlier, we attempted to sell it and we got cold feet. But when we did sell it, we realized we were at the peak of our career. We were more valuable at 55 and 53 than 65 and 63 or 70 and 68. So we knew enough that the earlier you do it, when you still can stay on for 10 years to help the buyer, keep it going, that really made sense to us. So at 53 and 51, Chuck and I started to have some pretty significant discussions with some of the folks that, as you said, had approached us.
Yeah, so interesting because we always ask our clients, what's motivating to sell and what's your goals and objectives? And we get many different kind of answers. I want to sell and retire. I want to sell, maybe work 6 months and retire. I want to maybe stay on, roll some equity, take some chips off the table. Or like yourself, initially let's sell. I enjoy what I'm doing, and I got a good 10-year run ahead of me, right? So in your case, you were thinking 10 years at the time, right? Things change. So, and you, as we always say, don't go it alone, right? Don't go it alone. You should hire an investment bank like Osage to represent you. Unfortunately, we didn't know each other back then. Wish we did. Because
I wish we did too.
It would have been fun to work together. But you made that determination that we needed some advice. We needed someone to basically represent us. And how did you? Was it a collective determination between you and Chuck? Let's hire somebody. Did you talk to your lawyer or accountant and said, how should we do this? How did you get that realization that you need to be represented in one of the most important decisions in your life?
Well, because the first time we attempted to sell it, we attempted to sell it ourselves.
Okay.
And it just was so frustrating and so stressful.
And what was the frustrating piece of that? Because I get that call all the time. It's like, I tried to sell it. I talked to this guy. It didn't work out. We need to have a conversation.
Well, no one knew our company better than Chuck and I, right?
Right, yep.
We've been working there for 35 years. No one knew it better than us. And we had the family legacy and, we knew all the employees. So we knew what we had to sell. But honestly, I've done a lot of things in my life, but I've never sold a company before. And
right.
We made mistake after mistake after mistake. And then we decided this is not a good idea. Let's work 10 more years. Let's double the size of the company, and then we'll sell it. And it was a huge sigh of relief. Mm-hmm. And then 8 months later, it's like, that door was opened. We tried to walk through it. We walked through the wrong door.
Right.
And then we realized, you know what, Chuck, let's get the chips off the table. This is our largest asset. Let's do this the right way. Let's hire an M&A firm, and we interviewed 3 of them to figure out, how do they work, and let's pick one, and let's do it that way. And sure, it costs extra money, but oh my gosh, we got so much more for our company because we used an advisor, because they know how to, you know how to sell companies.
Right.
You could take the personality off, and you can look at our financials for 5 years and do pro formas and all of that, and you've done this so many times. You know how to put all that together. We had no idea.
Right. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And it's I look at it as an investment, in yourself, to selling, not a cost of hiring us.
Right.
You're at the 1-yard line. And it's a heavy lift to get over that. And there's a lot of intricacies and complications. And you got dealing with a very sophisticated buyer pool. And they know all the ways to work it their way, and you need someone on your side so you can sell it on your terms that work for you and your brother in this case. And one buyer is no buyer, in our opinion. I mean, we've talked about it multiple times. Is that value is different for different buyers. You can have a qualified buyer come in and offer you $10 million, and someone around the corner look at the same information and offer you $20 million. And if you go with the $10 million, you're leaving generational type money on the table. So hiring, that was a great decision. I mean, you went through it, you learned. Right?
Well, in the very beginning stages, we went out to 2 or 3 of the best known buyers and said we're interested in selling, because they've been chasing us for years.
Right.
The good ones did a really good job of chasing us. So we had discussions with them, and the first thing they all said was, first question is, do you have an advisor? Just our accountant. You don't need an advisor.
Yeah, of course.
That's what they said.
Because they want to be in the catbird
So
seat.
all of a sudden, Chuck and I felt so out of control with the process that we were getting BS'd by these folks. And I thought, I don't understand why they're doing this. And then I realized because they think they can pay less if we don't have an advisor. And frankly, I think that's probably what happens. When there's
I wouldn't disagree.
When there's no advisor, and there's 2 young men like Chuck and I are passionate, and we want to do this, and it makes sense, and we're intrigued by all this money, we're like, we don't need an advisor.
Right.
But oh my gosh, I'm so happy that we didn't.
So you hired an advisor.
Yes.
They did their job. They went out to probably multiple parties. You had multiple meetings, which is important because you need to feel and get a sense of, do they appreciate the legacy? Of course, fourth generation business. Are they the right fit? They understand our culture? Are they going to take care of our employees? All these things are going through your head. And is the value right? Price. So when you made that determination to select this company that you sold to, what were a couple of the key takeaways that you and Chuck said, like, this, I feel good about these guys?
Well, we had 10 dinners.
10 dinners.
10 dinners. And the last dinner we didn't even want to have. I said to Chuck, you know what? I'm done. I can't do this anymore.
Right.
But we had dinner with that last company. And our advisor worked us through all the process. They spreadsheeted everything. They got the offers.
Right.
They went back and they changed a few things. And really, we ended up selling we narrowed it down to 2 companies. And they're both public companies, but they were started by families. So they were family-run public companies.
They can appreciate the dynamics of your
They
family.
flew us to their home, spent the night,
Right.
got to know the culture, went to the office, met some of their key executives. We really felt included and felt like we could really go with either one. But you have to pick one. You can't not.
Right. You have
You
to
got to
pick
pick one. So we picked the one that we felt wasn't the highest number, but culturally it felt right. It just felt like our folks would go into this new, because things change, would go into this new company and feel like not a lot has changed.
You must have been listening to like the last 3 seasons of our podcast.
No.
Because it comes down to, I always talk about, it's not the highest price, right? For most of our clients, it's the right fit.
The right fit.
So the second buyer can be, it just feels better.
Yeah.
And I want it's because it's not just about you and your brother, it's about your family, meaning your people of your company. So what you went through is very common, and it's what a lot of our clients go through and experience. So you picked a buyer, you sell, right? Friday afternoon, and it's like, I just sold my company. What was going through your head on day one of the new?
Well, leading up to that, like you said, the negotiations, there's so much regret, remorse. Am I doing the right thing? And the advisor helps you through that. They almost play the role of a psychologist because they've done this. You've done this so many times. You know what I'm going through because you've seen it dozens and dozens of times. So that they really helped get me to the point where we finally closed a deal. And like you said, I remember getting this email on Friday afternoon at 4:00, and it was post-sale date. Probably 4 weeks, because that's sometimes what happens with a public company. And it was from their lawyer, and it said, the deal has closed, the money has been transferred, the contracts are attached, welcome to our company. And
How'd you feel about that when you got that letter or email from a lawyer? Well,
Well, Chuck and I were in the office at the time because we were waiting for the email for weeks.
Yeah, things tend to get delayed.
Yeah,
right, for
and it
many
finally
reasons.
came in, and we went and just looked at each other and, hugged and cried and felt great.
Right.
But then because it's a public company, we only told 2 people of our 25 employees what was happening.
So you had to make an announcement.
We had to make an announcement Monday.
Oh.
And we've been lamenting over that for weeks.
Right.
Maybe months. And I remember that Monday morning, we went in and we had prepared speeches and all that. And Chuck and I were really good at having weekly meetings with the team. And we're having a team meeting, come on in. So we told them in a really nice, thoughtful way what we did. And as we looked around the room, there were tears. There were people screaming, shouting, like, "Oh my God, how could you do this? How could you do this to me? What's going to happen to me?" And, I wasn't prepared for that. But in retrospect, now that I think about it, their work family was us. And we had very, very good retention.
Yeah,
These people have been with us for 30 years. It's a family.
They feel like they're orphaned,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's...
Yes,
so
100%.
But you're there, and Chuck said, "Look, we're not going anywhere."
Right.
Right? Maybe ownership changed, but our culture, the way we do business, is how we pick this buyer. And Chuck and I plan on working another 5 or 10 years.
Yeah.
So nothing's really going to change for you. And as I always say to our clients, when they have employees like yours who are really look, this is a good thing for everybody.
It is.
Right? At the end of the day, so you give it some time. And I think once you get over the emotional aspects of this, you're going to find out this is a good situation for you.
Well, it was a rough day.
Yep.
And we had revolving doors in our offices, people coming in asking lots of questions. What's going to happen to me? And what does this mean? And what does it mean for you? And the next thing that we needed, and everyone made it through. It was fine. It's a shock. But the next thing we needed to do was call our 20 largest clients and tell them what happened, because it was going to be in the paper, in the press that morning. So we had a prepared speech that we were going to tell our clients, and this is what they asked. And I couldn't believe it. All of them said, "Congratulations. Is this a good thing for you?" "Absolutely." "Are you hanging around?" "Not that it really matters, but are you hanging around?" "Yeah, I'm hanging around." "Well, what about Lori, who's really my account person? Is she staying?" "Yeah, she's staying." "Well, then that's awesome. It's great." I couldn't believe it. They didn't care. They were happy.
Well, they're used to it because you're in this running your business, and your clients, and they have other vendors.
Sure.
And they always and companies are being bought and sold all the time, so they're getting these calls a lot, and they just want to make sure they have a relationship. Is this working for you? It's a great conversation. Am I still going to be serviced, right, the way that I anticipate? And frankly, if depending on the buyer, if they're not servicing the way down the road, that client may decide to make a change, but they're happy for you. Things aren't going to change in their world, and it moves on. So you and Chuck said, "Okay, we're going to sell, and we're going to stay on for 10 years. But you didn't stay on for 10 years.
No.
So what kind of led, post-closing, how did that, that decision, like, you know what, this isn't really working for me anymore, and I don't feel like the person I am right now, and I got to make some changes. So it kind of lead you to that exit from the business.
Well, it's a great question, because my vision was to work till at least 65.
And you were 55 at the time.
I was 55 at the time.
Right.
And for me, that was a 10-year runway that I could do with my eyes closed. I knew the business so well. I loved the business. I loved what I did every single day. I woke up energized and excited to go to work and to see my team and to do new deals and sell insurance, and it was all of that and more. And then when it changed, there was a little bit of transition, because now I'm reporting to someone, so that was new for me.
Right.
But the upside was I spent 3 years doing acquisitions. So now I've got a
You were the deal guy.
big public company behind me,
Right.
with millions and millions of dollars, and I went out and bought 4 of my competitors who were /friendly competitors, and we went from 25 people to 80 people in 3 years, from $6 million in revenue to $18 million in 3 years. I mean, it was tremendous growth, and the challenging part for me as the CEO was the culture part, bringing in these new cultures into a blend of the Rollins agency, and we sold to Brown & Brown into Brown & Brown. So I worked really hard for 3 years, and I think it finally took its toll on me. I was working harder than I ever had in my life, and now I'm 57, 58, and I'm thinking, I can't do this much longer. So I called my boss and said, listen, I really want to step down as the office CEO. I'd like to go back and handle just my 25 clients that generated enough revenue that I could still get a nice salary and work a little bit less. And he said, sure, let's work on that. So it took 8 months to replace me, and then that's what I did. And that was a nightmare for me.
Why?
Because instantly overnight, I became irrelevant.
In your mind?
Well, I stepped down from the office leader. So that next Monday when I came in, this isn't a bad story. This is a great story, by the way.
Right.
I came in that Monday and I walked past the conference room where the weekly leadership team meeting was taking place that I ran for 35 years, and I wasn't even invited.
Right. So
As it should be.
Right.
So I go to my office, and, fast forward 12 months, no one needs me anymore. I had done such a good job handing off my clients to our team. They don't really need me. And I started coming in late and going home early. And I was like, what am I going to do now? And it forced me to really think about retirement, which I'd never really thought about.
And how old are you? You were 60 at this point? Or?
I'm 60.
Yeah.
On my 60th birthday was in April, and I left at the end of that year. 61. I retired. I left December of 2018. And my wife, Jody, who worked for an insurance company, retired the same day. But we weren't sure what we were going to do. We hadn't planned as well for retirement up here as we should have. We had the money.
Right.
We had the means. We had to figure it out. And my dad, who retired at 65, he died by the time he was 80. So he really failed in retirement. And the day he died, Jody and I had a conversation saying, we can't live a retirement like that. We have to do more than play golf 3 days a week and go out to lunch with the buddies and all of that. So we had to make a big pivot.
So, and you have a great story about post, Rollins Insurance, because you went through this and you're sitting there, what am I going to do with my life now? And I think that's a question that all of our clients have, and business owners out there, like, what am I going to do after I'm, like you said, you were part of the fabric. This business was like part of you, your personality.
It was my identity. It was who
right?
I was.
So I want to talk about life after the sale with you, because I think, and have you back, because I think it's an amazing story what you and Jody have done since you left Rollins Agency. And if you have the time, I'd love to have you come back and discuss it with us.
I would love to do that. I think it's a great story. And we find, like my dad, so many entrepreneurs who were so tied up in the business with their identity that when they retire, they really don't know what to do. They can't reinvent themselves and all of that. So, I can't wait to come back and talk about that.
That would be great. Mark, 4 years later, you look better than ever. I mean, thank you for being with us. And thank you for being with us today. My name's kdee, President of Osage Advisors. If you enjoyed our podcast, The Ins and Outs of Selling a Business, you can subscribe on our YouTube channel. To learn more about Osage, you can visit our website at osageadvisors.com. Any questions, please feel free to email me at kdee@osageadvisors.com, or pick up the phone and give me a call at 860-767-3273, extension 1001. Thanks again for being with us, and have a great day.